Cinco de Mayo. What the heck does it even mean? Well, we'll try to explain that to you tonight. Most of you know, May 5th, of course. I'm Buddy Martin. This is Meldon Law Monday. Got a good show for you. What a weekend this was. My goodness. Shane Matthews will be here just a moment. Softball, baseball, two huge days for these teams. What a day. What a weekend to be a Gator. Good stuff happening everywhere. On the program tonight, we'll have Shane talk about Tim Walton and softball team. What a story that is. And, of course, baseball now all of a sudden has stepped it up. Scott Carter will be along to talk about that, plus the new president, presumably, from Michigan, Santa Ono. Franz Beard's got more on the national championship afterglow. And Dan Bond, who is a veteran fan and a writer of softball, will be coming along to talk about how these Gators have emerged and what's going on there. Stay tuned. All coming your way on Meldon on Monday right here on the program. Glad to have you on this day and this night. It's going to be fun. It's been fun all weekend, and it's going to be fun tonight. So jump in and give us your 2 cents worth. Shane Matthews is on the other side after we open the show.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Evening, welcome to the program. I don't know what you did all weekend, but I was chasing baseball broadcasts and softball broadcasts and watching the Derby. It was quite a weekend. I hope you had a good one. Let's don't mess around. Let's get right to the business of Mr. Shane Matthews. He's the host, of course, of Pot Up with Matthews, highly successful show. He's the man, number 9. His horse didn't win this week, but mine didn't either. Shane, you didn't get your guy home. I thought you might, but you didn't. And you had a little thrill there. My horse was second, journalism.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was pulling for Sandman and for the 9 horse, but no luck there.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's horse racing, right?
That's right.
Hey, Shane, just to educate you and me both, we could use it. You know what Cinco de Mayo is about, probably, but there's a lot of misnomers. And given there's so much bad will in our allies these days, I thought I'd educate myself a little bit to get it correct. And so we'd start off on a good note. Mexico's Independence Day is September the 16th. It was on that. It's not this day. It was on a day in 1810. A Catholic priest named Miguel Hidalgo Castilla made the first claim for independence from Spain. Mexican Independence War lasted 11 years. 11 years. Anyway, so this is not. It's not that Cinco de Mayo, which we know, of course,
has something to do with one of their wars, correct?
I'm not sure, but I can find that part. But I know the Independence Day, which I thought it was, that was not it. But we're researching some more, and we've got smart people on here. They'll be telling us in no time flat, catching us up. But
I never understood why we celebrate St. Patrick's Day or Cinco de Mayo in America.
Well, because there are a lot of Mexicans here.
Well, I guess, but I guess. Wait
a minute, I'm Irish. Don't tell me that. I'm an Irishman. Okay.
Oh, okay.
What do you celebrate, Shane?
4th of July, buddy.
4th of July. Well, I mean, besides that, we all celebrate.
Well, I don't do anything for St. Patrick's Day. I don't do anything for Cinco de Mayo.
I don't either. So, but I respect it. I have a right to do that.
Yeah, that's their thing. I have no desire to do anything for it.
Yeah. But you have to celebrate what the softball team did this week. Man, oh, man, what a show, Shane.
Yeah, they should have swept them on it, buddy. I was there Thursday night, and
Yeah, that was a close game. That was a
we had a
heartbreak.
lot of opportunities. Some early base running errors by Taylor Shoemaker cost us a couple of runs. Jocelyn Erickson threw out a runner, but Holtorf didn't put the tag on her. I mean, clearly beat the runner.
Yeah.
And then the very next pitch, the girl that would have been we would have been out of the inning.
Yeah.
Like 2 pitches later, base hit, scores a run. So, look, Florida's they have a chance. They have a chance to win the national title, and got to pitch well. And it was good to see Rothrock pitch a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
But now it all starts. I think winning the SEC tournament is going to be way harder than winning the national title. So we'll see.
Well, I mean, the setting, I wasn't there, but I'm told by Lauren Meadows and others, and you were there on Thursday night, that the whole Kendra Falvey show was fantastic.
Oh, she
saw
makes
the plays.
catches. It's ridiculous, the catches she makes.
Yeah. I mean, the 2 plays she made there were world class. And she didn't get the golden ticket. Now, I'm not sure I know what that is. I guess that means you get picked up for the professional women's softball.
Yeah, you're. I think if I'm not mistaken, the golden ticket. I think only like 6 or 8 girls around the country get those, and that means you're guaranteed to be drafted.
Yeah.
I thought Kendra was going to get one. I guess can't get one now. The season's over.
Give it to the other girl.
Yeah, Corby Otis. She's had a tremendous career as well. She's an All-American, but I don't know if they've had the draft, but if Kendra Falvey's not drafted, something's wrong.
She's one of the greatest athletes Florida's ever had.
Yeah.
And her hitting hasn't been up to speed. She had a rough weekend hitting the softball, but boy, her play in the outfield was spectacular. Tell me, Shane, you were there. Lauren Meadows explained to me how great the crowd was and how the parents all get together and they party it up. And it's just a great setting at the softball. They had a big crowd. And I noticed that even the Oklahoma coach, Patty Gasol, said she talked about what a crowd they had and how it was to overcome the crowd. So that's getting to be quite a little venue there. And one that, guess what, Oklahoma? You're in the SEC now.
Well, Gator softball is equivalent or right behind Florida football on a Saturday. There are more people that attend those games. If they had a bigger ballpark, they would sell it out.
Yeah.
If they played at Conjuring Ballpark, it would be sold out every game.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate they don't have a bigger ballpark. They've added on a couple of years ago, but to me, it's the best sporting event on campus.
Yeah, it's really become quite a fun thing, and all the girls are stars now too. By the way, not a bad weekend for baseball. First of all, I want to tell you how difficult it is watching and following this, because I'm glued to the TV, and I'm watching the softball game. It must be about the 2nd inning. I get up and I go to the bathroom. I come back, and the channel's been changed. And I thought, what is going on here? And I can't find the game. And I flick over the ESPN channels. They don't show anything. In the process, they had moved the game to ESPN because so many of the games are being rained out. So they moved the Gator game over. That's fine, except for one thing. We didn't know where the game was. Some of us didn't. And when you had your VCR, or what do you call your thing you tape with, set to a certain channel, and they change the channel, you don't get to tape it. So I missed the whole rest of the game and couldn't find it. I went back to the grid, tried to find it. The grid had something else listed, but apparently it was on ESPN, but my TV didn't show it. So I'm not too happy about that. Now comes baseball. Trying to watch it. Let's do a baseball game. Impossible. You know how delayed they were and whatever, that whole South Carolina. And Friday, the game was still going after midnight. I'm listening on the radio, and by the way, I love Cardoza and Steve. What they did a great job on the play-by-play. I loved it. I talked about it in a notice. And I was saying how great it was to hear baseball on the radio done by 2 veteran broadcasters. So Steve and Jeff did a fantastic job. But we know what happened there, right? It didn't get over. And so the games the game's carried on over. It was washed out the next day. They had some gamesmanship involved. And then they decided to postpone until yesterday. And then yesterday we had crazy 22-3 game. And then just beat the bejabbers out of them in both games. And they just punished South Carolina. And now they're ranked again. So that was quite a weekend for softball, too, and for baseball.
Yeah, I mean, I think we expected to sweep South Carolina. I talked to some people that were there and said South Carolina's just awful. It's hard to believe where that program's gone. You know, they won a back-to-back national titles probably 10, 12 years ago. But it was a good win. I mean, look, Florida's going to make postseason play now.
Yeah.
There's a possibility they could host a regional.
Yes.
You got to go play the number one team in America at their ballpark and then come home with 3 to end the season against Alabama. So, give Kevin O'Sullivan and his staff a lot of credit. Give the players a lot of credit to weren't they like 0-8 or 0-11 at one point?
They were 1-11.
Yeah.
Next last in the SEC, needing a miracle, basically. And that's what they got. They are now, since the start, they're now 12-2, 10-2 in the SEC. With the sweep of South Carolina, the Gators are 33-6 overall, 11-13 in the SEC. They're 2 games out of 500, with 6 games remaining. 3 road games, Texas next weekend, and 3 against Alabama in the final regular season. A legitimate chance to finish break even in the SEC. As you say, they'll host a regional. They will not probably host a super regional. And by the way, the player of the week, two guys coming to life, Hayden Yost and Ty Evans. They entered the weekend with 1 home run apiece for the season. They both hit 2 home runs in the South Carolina series, combined for 16 RBI, 11 runs, and they just exploded, Shane.
Yeah, it was. They're playing good baseball right now. They're hot, and like I said, got 6 games left. Important to try to at least win 1 in Austin, and then win at least 2 to 3 at home to close out the year.
Yeah. I want to get back to Falvey because that will be one of the great performances we've seen by an athlete. And what a time to have it on your last home game. And she was just so fantastic. And she's so humble. I think Tim Walton said, it's okay to wave, when they're all cheering for you, chanting your name, right? She's so stoic. Walton was praising everybody and about the most complete game with time of hitting, pitching, defense. And the team has a bit of a bounce to it right now. And Falvey said, we flipped the page from April. It's May now, and it's go time. I'm so excited to see what this team does. And we're excited to see her because it's just a rare thing. We've been treated some really great athletes in Florida, and she's one of them.
Yep. We've had a lot in softball. And, there's 3 seniors that have played a lot of softball for this team. Falvey, Corby Otis, and Reagan Walsh.
Reagan Walsh, I love
Reagan
her.
Walsh may be she's got some record she set this year. I don't know if it's the all-time RBI record.
RBI, yeah.
Yeah. So those 2 young ladies have played a lot of softball at a high level.
Yeah.
And like I said, all that matters when you get to Florida and Oklahoma and Texas and Tennessee, their level of softball play, all that matters is postseason play, quite honestly. Yeah, coaches get bonuses for SEC titles and things of that nature, but it's just getting the postseason play because that's all that matters, and find a way to get to OKC.
I will say that playing in Oklahoma in your final series is pretty dramatic. A team that's won it 4 years in a row, and you got them at home, and you never won a series against that one team. That's as much like postseason as you could possibly get. Yeah, you're right. That's what matters. And now it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch. And people, I'm telling you, I believe in the rising tide raises all ships. I know Coach Spurrier didn't necessarily believe that. By the way, Dan Bond said the Mexican victory over the French in 1862. That's what he said it's about. So thank you for that.
I know it was over one of those wars.
Yeah, one of those wars out there. Yeah. So, yeah. So, so now the basketball team and the draft for Walter Clayton. There's still an afterglow about basketball. Shane, are you talking about it much on your show anymore?
No.
What's the subject? I haven't had a chance to hear it recently. What's the subject?
We talk baseball, softball, and golf mostly today because the girls golf team is 4th place right now after round 1, top 5 advance.
Yeah.
And then the men's golf team starts up next Monday.
Yeah. Auburn's top seed, right?
Well, in their region. We're not in their regional. We got to go out to Washington. Arizona State's the 1 seed. We're the 2 seed.
Yeah, so I saw the latest baseball rankings. Apparently, Georgia's number 1.
Oh, really? I have not seen. I don't look at any of the basebal rankings.
Baseball America, apparently Georgia. So things happening. Also, Georgia had a big get today in recruiting. As a matter of that 5-star quarterback, Jared Curtis. I know you don't follow too much. I don't follow it either. But this guy was a 5-star from Nashville. They took the Bulldogs over Oregon. He's the number 1 quarterback in 26 class. So somebody said, well, is he going to go play for Kirby Smart? I mean, it's his quarterback coach and Mike Bobo. Is that where you'd go? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't go there. But
where would you go, buddy?
If I was the number 1 quarterback, I would probably go to Texas.
Yeah.
More than likely. I think I might look at Florida, maybe. And then, depending on who wants to throw the ball, I'm not sure I want to go to Oklahoma. And I don't know if I want to go to USC. And I would not want to go to Georgia because, first of all, it's crowded. And secondly, they don't have a great offense. I don't know who's your favorite offense.
Well, I think a couple of the best play callers and schemers are Steve Sarkisian at Texas, Jeff Brom at Louisville. I think Lane does a good job at Ole Miss.
Okay, you probably go to Ole Miss.
I really like Sarkisian. I think Lincoln Riley does some good stuff at USC.
Boy, he's dropped off the face of the earth.
Yeah, a little bit, but
that's a great question.
I'd probably lean Texas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this guy didn't get drafted, which is really bizarre.
Well, neither did I, so I wouldn't.
Well,
I'm not going to feel sorry for him.
You're a bitter man.
Because they can still have a good career.
You had a great career. Listen, you still cashing them checks, right?
I haven't got any of those checks yet. I need some of those checks.
When do they start coming?
I'm getting older. They'll start coming here soon.
Well, you get some of that money out of your backyard in those tomato cans you got put away.
Got to go dig them up.
Yeah. Florida's number 15 in the RPI. That's one of the ones in baseball which they like. They played the 5th toughest schedule. They have 2 wins over Florida State and number 7 Arkansas. So those are good numbers that speak well. The brackets are not out. The Tennessean did baseball brackets. I didn't look at all of them, but one of the ones that they projected, they think the SEC will get 14 teams in, just like in basketball. And they, 2 teams, South Carolina and Missouri. You know what their combined win record is?
They don't have many wins of all. Maybe 3?
I think it's maybe South Carolina's got them all because Missouri didn't have any. I don't think. But there's a regional in Clemson, or they're projecting Florida would go there as the 2nd seed in the region behind Clemson and then UConn and Rhode Island. So I don't know much about how this works. But that's how it's going to be. So, Shane, what have you been talking about? I know you didn't talk too much about that horrible golf tournament, the former Byron Nelson event, where Scotty went 100 under par. Oh, my gosh. Jordan Spieth finally picked up his game and played better the last round, didn't he?
Yeah, we talked about it, how they got to do something about that golf course. They either got to move it or grow rough, shrink the fairway, do something. It was ridiculous. But Ricky Castillo, rookie on tour from the Gators, came in 5th. So it was a good win for him.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's good. Yeah, that's
good
nice.
job on his part. Big check. And yeah, I mean, the shot making was ridiculous on that golf course.
Really? How many times has Scotty won it? 4 or something?
No, that's the first time he's ever won that.
Well, I thought he won it 3 or 4 times. No, he didn't.
No, that's the first time he's ever won it. That was the first tournament he ever played in as a professional.
Huh. I saw the great pictures they had of him with Byron Nelson when he was about 9 years old.
Yeah.
Showed that too. So I think this is win number, I'm jumping all over, 750 for Sully, right? And
I don't know the answer to that, but
graphic out on it, and they put it out today. It says 750. I imagine that's what it is. Amazing run he's having. To imagine he's been every year what he's done in that program. This year, this program was given up to dead. The 2 great stories this weekend were, first of all, Falvey and beating the number 1 team on your last series and your last home game, and Falvey putting on a show for the great crowd they had, and you were there on Thursday when they should have won too. And the second was this baseball team was dead in the water. They come back and they just hammered the ball all over the ballpark. Their pitching wasn't the greatest in the world, but they just crushed South Carolina. They looked like they could beat anybody, Shane.
Well, baseball is a crazy sport. You get it rolling and you're hitting it's all about timely hitting, right? And timely pitching.
Right.
What it comes down to.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, all right. So, you know anything about the new president?
I know nothing.
New president?
Nothing at all. Apparently, he likes sports, which is huge to me.
We're going to get the inside.
I know all these people that care about top whatever academic school, which is great. I don't care.
You don't care. I know
the athletes don't care.
You don't care. I know. Well,
I want him to address the admissions issue, and I want him to make sure sports are a priority. That's all I care about.
That's it. You don't care about academics at all, right?
I mean, academics take care of itself, but more importantly, the kids that want to come to school here, that deserve to come to school here, need to freaking get in. It's that simple.
Well, Well, we'll see about that. But one of the things he will address,
buddy, there are so many smart kids that grew up coming
I
together.
know. I got a lot of my friends. A lot of my friends have kids who are really smart.
Yeah, they're at Florida State. They're at UCF or FAU.
I feel ridiculous. I know you're right. You're correct. But I'm saying this president, they're paying him $3 million a year for something.
Okay, well, maybe he can address those issues because that's a big issue in my opinion.
All right, well, let's stand by and get Scott in here. But let me tell you first about Meldon Law. My good buddies, they sponsor Meldon Law Monday. We all know about what great work they do in the community and, of course, on campus. Jeffrey is, of course, a huge Gator fan. He's had the ride of his life with this Gator basketball team. His friend Todd has been riding with him, and he's saw pictures of him celebrating with the basketball team out in Texas. It's a great time. And Meldon does a lot for the program. He also does a lot for the community. He is the official injury law firm of the Florida Gators. He sponsors many good things, including this program. He also has a tremendous giveaway program. You want to be sure to check his Facebook, Meldon Law Facebook page. They give away stuff all the time, all kinds of trips, whatever. Meldon Law, they don't back down. This guy doesn't back down either, by the way. Although he's under the weather, I'm glad he's back. There he is right there. University of Florida's president's new emissary, Scott Carter. What's up, Scott?
Hey, guys. How are you tonight?
Well, you feeling better?
I do feel better, man. I got some kind of infection. I got caught with my immune system down, man. So, but feel better. Just getting back into the swing of things.
Yeah.
So there's plenty going on. You guys were talking about a lot of it, obviously.
Yeah. Let's talk about, you wrote about the new president, and you're going to correct us on a few things and what you know. He's the only nominee, which the board has to now approve And I read your piece. Why don't you tell us what you know about Santa Ono, right?
Santa Ono, yeah, I've been up in Michigan for a while since 2022 as president up there. And, I really didn't know much about him until obviously I saw the news, started researching him. And a real good friend of mine who I used to work with, he's up at Michigan. He's a Michigan man. He texted me today and he just says, "You're going to love Santa Ono. He loves athletics, interacts with fans. Harbaugh probably would have left a few years earlier without his support. He's a great ally to coaches." So we'll see what that looks like at Florida. But this guy saw it up close at Michigan, and he's a big fan of what he was able to do with athletics. And, when you're school president, I mean, you're going to have your enemies. It's just natural, just like, he's part politician, but he does have a vested interest in sports. He showed that up there at Michigan. And, you look at Michigan and Florida, they're very similar in a lot of ways as universities, the flagship universities in their state. They're very well thought of academically. They have very tradition-rich athletic programs. So I think for him, I don't think anything at Florida will be too big for him. I mean, he's seen it at this level before, and he's obviously had some success up there. And he also dealt with a lot of issues. I mean, the Jim Harbaugh story. Obviously, you guys saw the announcement today with Sharon Moore probably going to face a couple of games suspension next week or next year. So, I mean, this guy has been in the oven, so to speak. So he'll step right into it down here in Florida. And, but first impressions, at least from what I read, are pretty good.
Yeah, you're right. That's what I've been reading about too. Now, some people, of course, there's always the naysayers, what have you, are saying he's getting out of town. Well, getting out of town is good because the other shoe is going to fall in Michigan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. I don't know what they'll do, but obviously get in trouble. But I don't know why he's coming. But he seems like an awfully good choice. Apparently, he's been unanimously recommended. And then he's the solo finalist. So he's apparently had a contentious track record in Michigan, particularly over the way he handled the Palestinian protests. So there's always after the Hamas attack, etc. There's always going to be some kind of warts on guys. But from what you read and hear, Shane, he's very pro sports. Like Scott said, Harbaugh was only stayed a couple extra years because of him. He sounds like a sports fan and a highly regarded guy, Shane.
Yeah, I know nothing about him. As I said, we all want our school to be great academically, but we do a sports podcast, buddy. You do one too, and we follow sports. I want us to be a lead in sports. I want a president that cares about sports. And then the only other thing I want him to care about is the admissions issue. Other than that,
what do you think that should be, Shane?
I think it should be when you got kids that are in-state kids that have tremendous GPAs, have tremendous test scores. They do a lot of volunteer, everything you have to get into college, that they get I don't know if priority is the right word, but they need to be accepted to the University of Florida. When they've grown up Gators, I just think that's important. They don't need to be at UCF, FAU, and all those schools. Like I tell this story all the time. Before I started doing the color analyst, I still used to do a pregame show with Steve Russell in the student union. And I like to watch the game. So when you're in the stadium, when I sit in my seats, there's just too much going on. You really can't watch the game. I like to go home by myself and watch it. So I would go tailgate. And then about 15 minutes for the game, I would jog back through the student union to where I was parked in the garage, and I would be home before kickoff. But as I'm going through the student union, you have people in there studying, okay, on a Saturday. And we're getting ready to kick off against whoever. That should not happen at the University of Florida or any SEC school. Now, all these academic folks probably think I'm a moron, but none of those people were from the state of Florida. They were all foreign students, which is fine, but that's my tangent. And I think I have so many friends of mine, buddy, that are legacy kids that were my age that their kids did not get in. My daughter was not accepted here. My son got in because of football, but I think they need to look at it. And maybe I'm in the minority, but I don't care. That's just my opinion.
You know, for a long time, there was this rumor, at least, that foreign students always had an advantage over Americans or whatever, or out of state people because they had the tuition. But that was later shot down. I don't know if that was true or not. Scott, what have you heard about that?
You know, I mean, I've heard those discussions, and I've heard what Shane's talking about, and you know, I know some people who are in the same situation as Shane talked about. You know, whose kid who went to Florida, but whose kids didn't get in, and you look at it on paper and you think, well, how did they not get in? You know, so I do think that's something that has kind of grown in recent years, a little bit more unrest or whatever you want to call it within some of the alumni base, especially the state alumni. And, you know, it is a state university, so I get where they're coming from. And I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be at the top of the new president's to-do list. I don't know how big of an issue the administration of the University of Florida looks at this right now. But it is a common complaint for people who really know a lot of people around the program, know a lot of alumni. I mean, you hear it all the time. So I think it's a relevant topic of conversation for him to engage in. He's having a round table tomorrow on campus, I think from 3:30 until 4:30, somewhere around there, I think, with students and administrators. So we'll be interested to see what some of the topics they bring up, because that's what's going to be on their minds. So we'll see if that's one of them.
Franz, what do you hear?
I joined the conversation a little late, so I don't.
Issues about how
well, I know a lot.
The guy to get athletes in and have fair standards.
No, this ain't got to do with athletes, bro.
No.
Well,
let me talk about the regular student.
If you're a legacy and you got good grades, you should be able to get in the University of Florida.
Thank you.
Period.
Yeah.
And it's hurting Florida that way, because we've got. I'll give you a good example. I have a very, very dear friend who I played high school basketball with at GHS, and their two kids end up at FSU. Why? Because and they are both Florida legacies from right here in Gainesville, both parents, and the kids went to FSU. That shouldn't happen, particularly with homegrown kids. It just shouldn't happen. I mean, I understand if you pass on a legacy from out of state, okay, because you only have so many positions available, etc. But if you're a legacy in the state of Florida and let's say you got a 3.9 or a 4.0, maybe your SAT scores 70 or 80 points less than some of the others. That doesn't mean you're a bad student. I mean, heck, I graduated, 710th out of 711 people in my graduating class, but I made a 1550 on my SAT. So, I mean, goodness, I mean, you got to make exceptions. I couldn't get to school at Florida now, and I mean, just couldn't.
Welcome to the club. Yeah. On another note, speaking of that, I know Shane's going to have to go here in a minute, but Florida, apparently, I say apparently, and I promised myself I'm not going to start chasing after stories about who's in the portal, who's not coming, who's not coming. It's just a crapshoot anyway. But this was talked about a lot and written a lot about, and it's the guard from USC that everyone was depending on. Apparently, he's not coming now.
No. He came here. They offered him, and from what I understand, he hemmed and hawed around, and they said, "Hey, you either with us or you're against us." And when he couldn't make up his mind, they said, "Fine, we made up ours." Florida's in a unique position. There are still a lot of very good ball players out there. Boogie Fland is now very definitely on Florida's radar, and I think that's a really good possibility. You're talking about that'll give it. Florida will have a five-star guy if they get Boogie Fland. How about that?
I saw a ridiculous comment today online about Florida paying Boogie Fland $7 million.
No, that's not going to happen. They're not even going to pay the entire roster $7 million.
I know that name was worth something, Boogie Fland. I mean, my gosh, you'd have to get a bonus for that. By the way, don't you like that?
He would be ideal because he's a point guard. He's a point guard who can play off the ball, and Xavier Lee is a point guard who can play off the ball. The thing I love so much about Xavier Lee is because he comes up in that Princeton offense, and he's constantly moving. He knows how to get open. But now you put him in an offense that's like Princeton on steroids, and this is a guy that could probably average 22, 23 points a game next year without a whole lot of effort, more than what he's been giving at Princeton. But they're going to get another point guard. I think they're going to pick up 2 international kids. They're going to kick up. I feel certain they're going to get Ben Henshaw, who's one of Alex Condon's buddies. He's a 6'8" kid out of Perth, Australia. Can play out on the perimeter. Can play the high post. He'll remind people a lot of Tommy Hawk the way he plays, and he's still growing. I think they're going to pick up a big Slovenian kid. I really believe that they've got a shot at this big Slovenian kid that they've been recruiting for 2 years. And so Florida's going to be fine. Florida's reloading. Florida's not rebuilding. Florida is reloading.
Yep.
And, don't read too much into Chinyelu getting a G League combine invite. He's out there trying to figure out what he's going to need to do to play. G League, he'll make more money at Florida than he can in the G League. Let's just put it this way.
All right, I want to come back to a subject that I've discussed with Shane a little bit, but now that we have this illustrious panel together, I want to flip this over and get Shane to wake up and so he can participate in this. It's past his bedtime. But here's the thing. It feels like, and we use this cliche all the time, the rising tide raises all ships. A lot of things lately, and I think it's a fact that since the basketball team started to won their championship, the baseball team's been on fire. The record's like 12-2 or something. So when you get down to that point about stay hot Gator boys and then passing the torch, when you look at what's happened this weekend in softball and baseball, what's happening to the football situation, it looks like it's on the upbeat. Is there something going on, Shane, or not, with the Gator program?
Well, softball was ranked like top 3 in America at the beginning of the season. They've been in the top 5 all year long. Maybe
they did it. They've done it. They've done it.
RPI number 2.
And baseball was, preseason top 10, I think. I mean, obviously the way the season started was terrible, and they've turned it around just like they did last year. I'm not one of these that thinks just because the basketball team won a national title that the other team said, well, I think we'll start winning some games now. I think our spring sports are damn dominant year in and year out, and it's getting crunch time during postseason, and they're finding ways to win games now.
All right. Scott, what do you feel?
Well, I think there's maybe more energy around, when a team wins a title. They're all in the same building, a lot of times in the Hefner complex, sharing dinner. They talk to each other, all these athletes for different teams. So I think that you could be inspired by that. If I was 18, 20 years old and I was playing sports here and the basketball team just won, that'd give me a little boost to see if I could go out and maybe make my mark. I'm not a big believer in, it carrying to other sports. I mean, basketball is basketball. Football is football. All these sports are different. They all have their different cultures, different coaching approaches. But I do believe the energy, that can serve as some inspiration for sure.
And that energy was there in the legacy gift from the basketball team who came up with Stay Hot Gator Boys. And that seems like that's a T-shirt, and there's a lot to that. Franz, do you feel anything there?
I think here's what I think happens, buddy, is I think you get a team that wins a championship like this. I think fans get really enthused and you start seeing big turnouts and you get a lot of energy in the ball yard. And I think that more so than, okay, the other team wins, so we've got to win. I think it carries over from the fan interest. All of a sudden, everybody's here wanting to see something Gator or have a piece of something Gator. And I think the packed houses, I mean, everything's packed. Lacrosse packed the other day. Baseball packing the stadium, softball packing the stadium, etc. like that. I think it carries over. I think the enthusiasm that you get, it creates a momentum. I mean, I'm writing about it tonight about Florida's come from behind wins. One of the come from behind wins, although it's not going to get a lot of credit for it, is the win over North Carolina. That North Carolina only led by 4 points, but they had come back from 17 down. So to come back from that, to quell their momentum and come back with all those Carolina fans in the stadium, and all those Carolina fans in the Charlotte Coliseum had a lot to do with Carolina coming back from 17 down to take a lead and look like they were going to beat the Gators. And that was back in December. So fans do have an influence. I got to tell you what, I'm watching, I'm on injured reserve, so I'm watching ball games on TV, and I'm watching the softball stadium, absolutely jam-packed. They shoehorned them in for Oklahoma. Then I go over and watch baseball up at South Carolina, and this is a place with a beautiful ballpark, and it's got a history of winning back-to-back national championships in the last 15 years. And you could have taken a shotgun in parts of that ballpark and unloaded it without hitting anybody.
Yeah. Well, you make a good point. I'm going to let Shane get out of here and get ready for his show tomorrow. And Scott's been sick, so I'm not going to keep him much longer. I do want to say you made a great point. It's the comeback feeling. In a way, because of the way Sully's done this, it endears themselves to the fans and the Gators more to be a team that looked like they were going south, and to suddenly find an arm and suddenly start hitting the ball, and the feeling of a team rejuvenating and playing better, I think it makes it more attractive, Shane, to the fan.
Yeah, I agree, buddy. I mean, look, I just think, as you said, when teams win, as Scott said, these guys, they eat, they study, they go to study hall together, all that kind of stuff, and they feed off one another. But in reality, it comes down to you playing your sport and trying to win games. And when you look at our spring sports, lacrosse has had they've had a great run the last 5, 6, 10 years. Softball's been damn good every year since Tim Walton's been here, pretty much Sully. And track's going to do their thing whenever track. I can't ever keep up with track season and gymnastics seasons. Those two seasons confuse the hell out of me. We're pretty good at those schools. At those sports. That's the bottom line.
What are we talking about tomorrow, Shane?
Who knows, buddy? We'll see what happens and what all the great listeners, what questions they have for you, buddy.
I'll be ready. I have my A game going. I'll see you in the morning, Shane. Thank you, buddy.
All right, gentlemen. Y'all have a good night.
Check us out. Pot up at the bathroom tomorrow morning, regular time. And Scott, before you go, and I'm glad you are feeling better, I wanted to ask you. I had a question for you over there. The subject matter of persona of people like Kirk Herbstreit. I bring him up today because I think what all fans want is their announcers to be in touch with the human side. Mm-hmm. And Herbstreit, who was known to be kind of a hard-ass when he first started, now it's really softened his image. His whole story about his dog, Ben. You guys follow that at all?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Ben, of course, is a golden retriever. He was dying. He took him on the road with him for almost a year and took care of him. Now he's got one just like him called Peter. He's taking around with him. And he also just announced a new member of the same family who was a 3-month-old golden retriever named Bo. So here's the thing. That humanizes him. And one of the things that my family was impressed with is how Herbstreit looked after Lee Corso. After the stroke, when the Corso came on, you worried about Corso getting mixed up or losing his place, and Herbstreit was right there with him every step of the way. I think he ingratiated himself with a lot of people with an act of human kindness. I think he's a very popular guy right now. You guys agree with that?
As long as he's not talking about the Gators, I think everybody would. I think as soon as he starts talking about the Gators, there's a lot of people who still remember 2006. You know?
Yeah, I wrote a book about it. I know, and I remember a lot about how he tried to ram Ohio State, Michigan. But look, that's something. I think we're talking about the kind of person he is.
Oh, I agree with you about the kind of person he is. But
opinions are just opinions. That doesn't matter. But the kind of people you're talking about, I think we don't talk about enough, Scott. The kind of people. You met some really great people. By the way, we had a bunch of friends of ours retire in recent days. Gene Fournette was one of them just recently, Florida Times Union, and now Tony Barnhart said this is his last season.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Fournette and I are not that good of friends. I work with him, but Tony and I were. Tony Barnhart is pure gold. He's as good as it gets, and he's got a guy that he's so objective that most people don't know he went to the University of Georgia.
Yeah,
and he's very much a gentleman, Scott, isn't he?
Oh, he definitely. I've always liked Tony. Grew up reading him, obviously, and in his day, he was a huge influence in the coverage of college football in the South when he was at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and now more guys like Herbstreit are more prominent because of ESPN and TV.
Yeah.
And I do. I mean, I know. I've always kind of liked Herbstreit. I know he's had some moments here and there, but I think for the most part, he does a good job. And I really do think that what really connected me more than anything to him was what you were just talking about, his relationship with Lee Corso. Because I mean, Lee Corso, he's a guy who's a former coach. I remember my first ever USFL game. He was the coach of the Orlando Renegades.
Yeah.
I went to see them play New Jersey, which was owned by Donald Trump.
Yep.
The quarterback was Doug Flutie. The running back was Herschel Walker. And I went to the Citrus Bowl, and Lee Corso was the coach, and I actually got an autograph of his somewhere. So I've known about him for a long time.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
A couple of times, and obviously he's reached heights now that he probably never imagined when he coached as far as national popularity. But yeah, him and Herbstreit have a special relationship, and it'll be interesting to see what they do the last year together. I'm sure.
Yeah,
they're going to milk it for everything it's worth. ESPN, a lot of it's genuine.
Sure, that's okay. The headgear thing is a big stick, great stick for him.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to wrap it up here with Franz. I want to reiterate, Franz has got a book coming out. As I bring Dan Bond in to talk softball, Franz's book is just yet untitled. He's working on it now. It's going to be terrific. We got another editor working on it, and you'll be hearing about it more and more. Franz, I think
that would be a great name for it. Yet untitled.
Untitled, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's going to be coming out soon, and it's going to be great. I've read some of the editors' work on it. He's excited about it, so we'll watch that information. We'll have it here for you. And so I'll say good night to Scott. Scott, be well, my friend. Nice to see you up and about. All right.
See you guys. See you, Dan.
The great Scott Carter. All right. Here's a guy who is happy. He's a happy dude. He is one. I can feel his love coming through the screen. Covering those Gators, the softball.
How y'all doing?
Good. Dan, how you
doing? Good.
Good job.
Thanks for having me.
I'm sorry?
Thanks for having me.
Being
I appreciate it.
This guy lives and dies at Franz right here.
Oh, I agree. And he's got to be particularly happy because by taking those two games from Oklahoma, it guarantees Florida will be a top 8 seed, which means host a regional, and win that, you're hosting a super. And boy, it's very, very rare that a top 8 seed loses its regional. And there's just some real advantages there. So, what a great weekend, though. Good job by Dan covering it for us.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Yeah, it was really fun to watch. I mean, definitely postseason vibes. I mean, Lauren Meadows really hit the nail on the head with his article in Gator Bait about the camaraderie and the togetherness that everyone has in that sport. I think that's what really drew me to it when I first went in 2008 to the World Series, and it was just a different vibe, where the fans really come together and enjoy the game. And I got hooked ever since. And I mean, this weekend had that World Series vibe for sure. I mean, everybody knows Oklahoma, 6 out of 8 national champions, 4 in a row. Again, y'all talked about the draft and that Landry, she was the first overall pick in that draft. So to get, a victory against her and a good game in game 1 against her says a lot. Obviously this team is geared for hitting 1 through 9 and have some really, really good players. But, you have somebody who fought me where you would say maybe last year, if she goes 1 for 7 or whatever she was, not great hitting, they weren't going to win. But really her defense and those 2 victories just really turned the momentum, especially that third game where she had the early home run robbing and then the run out where that was a double or a triple that she stole from that hitter. So I mean, really neat to see, and hit on the fans being packed in there. It's great to see, out there, Oklahoma's no slouch in hitting the ball. So Rothrock doing well, and we really haven't talked about Hammond's coming in there in that second game and starting.
Absolutely,
That was
her best outing of the year by far.
Oh, we lost France.
But yeah, she was. That was a big surprise to see her start because that was only her second start in an SEC series. I mean, it really reminded me a little bit to go way back of the 2014 series when Florida was playing Bama, and you had Gorley come in that second game where they had to win, where Hannah Rogers was pitching, and here comes this freshman who was good but hadn't really been in the spotlight, and Walton saw something there and pitched her, and they ended up winning that title. I feel like if she can come in and give some valuable innings and get some outs, I mean, she got a lot of those kids out. So I mean, it's setting up nice. The SEC tournament is laid out great for Florida. They're in the bottom half of the bracket. I definitely would say the top half is the hard half, where you got a really hot Arkansas team. You've got Tennessee up there, and you've got OU up there, and Florida just has to take on the OU Missouri winner. So that's feeling good that they're going to advance to Thursday, play Texas, and then they more than likely would play A&M in the semifinals. So they could make a deep run. I mean, they're defending champions of the tournament. So I mean, anything's possible. Just keep on winning like the basketball team did. Who says you can't win the SEC tournament and go in and win the whole thing out in Oklahoma
France,
City?
anytime you be Oklahoma, it's nice. But when you live in Dallas and you're living out there with those people and you hear Oklahoma, Texas, to have your team come through and take a series. First time I've ever taken a series from a number 1 team and play like they played. I mean, Dan Bond, you got to be floating on there, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, y'all were talking about the basketball team momentum carrying over, and against France hit it on the head there with definitely the fans are really into it and really are feeling that, that love and energy from the basketball team. And out here, I get people all the time just coming up because, I'm always wearing some Gator gear. and they're coming up to me about basketball all the time. And now I'm hearing from people about the Oklahoma, because there's a ton of those fans. They travel well too. So I mean, it's definitely a great time to be a
Yeah, it
Gator.
is.
In RPI, 8 of the top 10 teams in RPI are from the SEC. I think UCLA is in there and Florida State, and those are the only teams that broke the top 10 in RPI. Florida's number 2 RPI. So the Gators are. I think the Gators are. I think they clinched at the regional and super regional. I wouldn't be surprised to see them like 4th or 5th overall seed nationally. I think, given their pitching problems they've had this year, I think that would be quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, definitely. If they win it all, they could move up to 2. I would say. I don't think they'd be 1, but they'd be 2. I'd say.
I think there could. I think Oklahoma or Texas will be the number 1 seed. I think that's almost. You can almost write that in stone. Cut that into stone, because I think that's going to happen. And let's face it, they've been outstanding all year long. Florida, to be where the Gators are, with the injury to Rothrock, the uncertainty with the pitching staff, I think and you've got a new third baseman, a new shortstop, you got a freshman right fielder. Florida's done extraordinarily well. This has been one of Tim's better coaching jobs, to get these guys together. And of course, Falvey gap to gap. There has never been a center fielder I've seen in college. The closest thing I've seen to a center fielder that good is Michelle Moultrie.
I texted Steve Russell and said, could she play for the Gators in baseball? Kendra Falvey. I mean, what an amazing player. I just want to go back to just the moment that we witnessed. And Franz, you've been around a long time. We've seen a lot of great moments. We've seen things, a lot of great championship moments, etc. But to me, just watching what I saw this past weekend, especially with softball, the way she played, was one of the great performances by any athlete I've ever seen in Florida.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Kendra's all over the Florida record book. And I remember when they signed her, how many people just pounded me with, she'll never play. All she is just a weak little old slapper. And nobody was prepared for how fast she is. And she's got tremendous speed, and she's got great base running instincts. I don't think Tim ever has to tell her stop or go or whatever. She just instinctively knows what to do. And you don't see her get thrown out at third or at home on a play. She's an amazing player. But it was senior weekend, and so sad time to be thinking that she's going to be gone next year. Corby Otis is going to be gone next year.
Well, what a way to go out! My goodness gracious!
Yeah. I mean, you've got Falvey, who's been there the whole time, so there's definitely a better connection, I think, with her. And to see her go is sad. You had Skylar Wallace last year, who was one of the best ever to do it, but obviously she started at Bama, where you got Falvey, who's been there the whole 4 years. I think that hits a little harder to home for the Gator fans.
You're right about Lawrence Peace. He really wrote a good piece about the social connection to parents with the softball team. What it's like, because he goes and sits in the stands, as you know, and he talks to all these people. This is really a good feel-good story. It was exasperating trying to find it on TV, but because it kept bouncing around and baseball. But what a great weekend! I said International Diamond Center is not my sponsor; it's Shane's. But I said this could be 2 International Diamond Center GMs for what we saw with the baseball team pulling off a sweep. I don't care how weak South Carolina was. That was a rain-delayed, aggravating, game to play, and you could have easily lost your composure after carried over 3 games, played a doubleheader. They kept it together. It was a really nice win to get that series and get back in contention. And now the softball finish was marvelous. It was a great weekend to be a Gator. You're right. Dan, great job out there covering, buddy. Appreciate it. And
Thank
Franz,
you.
any final thoughts
Thanks
on
for having me.
basketball or
Yeah, Desmond Claude is out. Like I said, they're going to get a point guard. They're going to get a big guy, and they're going to get another player I think is like a hybrid, Ben Henshaw, who I believe who is a lot like Tommy Hawk. Yeah, he's a guy that can play on the wing, can play the high post. You can post him down low. He's just a really, really good ball player. But we're reloading. We're not rebuilding this year.
All right, look out for Franz Beard's book on basketball. It's something Gator Boys hot. We don't know what. Whatever the
Yet
title.
untitled. Yet
Franz.
untitled.
Yeah, yet untitled.
Hey,
Yes.
Franz.
Yeah.
Is it true where they're talking about Oliver was offered millions to go to, was it Tennessee? Have you heard that?
No, I haven't.
And then he said no.
But-
Yeah, that's probably
Well,
just-
I can tell you this: Georgia offered DJ Lagway $4 million. That's fact. They did offer him that, and he kind of looked at it and said, "Why?" I mean, that if he went there, he'd have to the stigma of living for the rest of his life, having to tell people he went to school at the University of Georgia. That alone is, I'm sorry, but why would you admit to anybody that you're a poodle for life?
Not prejudiced about that at all.
No, I'm not. I despise them, and I have never, ever, ever hidden my feelings about Georgia. I despise them.
We are aware of it on this program. We know all about it.
I mean, the core of my being, and it's funny because I have a friend of mine who's a pastor who's the biggest Georgia fan in the world, and he says, Franz, you're supposed to forgive, because I was there in '68 when Vince orders the center to kick. And he said, Franz, you're supposed to forgive. And I said, forgiving is fine. Forgetting, no. There doesn't say anywhere in the Bible does it say you got to forget. It says got to forgive. Okay, I can do that.
I'm gonna leave you with a shocking statement. You ready? You never thought you'd hear me say this, right? Stephen A. Smith, who I know many people don't like, or hold on. If he's very successful, makes $10 million a year, whatever. He was approached by certain people. Donald Trump, for one, endorsed him, and he was on CNN yesterday morning, and the political show, Jake Tapper, and I thought, well, I'm just going to swing over there and see what he's talking about. Now, number one, I don't do politics on this show either way. Number two, I'm not a huge fan of Stephen A., but I admire what he's done for himself as a former sports writer in Philadelphia, who made really good. He's done an amazing job, and now he's one of the richest people in television. And I thought, let's just see what this guy got to say. When I got done, I was really impressed.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And what he said was, he thinks that almost anybody is more qualified than him.
Very humble.
And he said he had let me finish the thought. He said he had no intention of running. And he said he did leave the door open because he said I'm politically, I'm a centrist. I believe in some things financially conservative, and the other social side, I'm a little more liberal. And he said, I said I had no interest in doing this or talking about it. He said, my pastor in Brooklyn said to me, Stephen A., you got to keep the door open. God may have another plan for you. He said, yeah, I guess, okay, so I get that. So he said, so I'll keep it open, but I have no real interest in being running for president, and almost everybody's more qualified. I came away impressed, guys.
I love Stephen A. And I like guys that aren't afraid to express their opinion. I may not like their opinion, but don't sit on the fence. I mean, tell me what you think. and tell me what you really feel. That's, it's kind of like me, how I sit on the fence about Georgia.
Yeah, right.
You never know how I really feel.
I've heard, I've heard Stephen A. on a few shows that aren't on ESPN, and he definitely is a different person. I would say different character when he's on those shows, and is impressive.
By the way,
I can tell you one of the reasons why he wouldn't why he wouldn't want to be president. What a pay cut he'd have to take. I mean, the president only makes $400,000. He's making $10 million a year with a 10-year contract.
Why do they all become rich?
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Before we get to politics too far, thank you guys. Great job, Dan, Franz. Glad you're doing well. Keep that book rolling. We'll talk to you guys later in the week. Let's see what happens midweek. Coming up here, Dan. We'll talk to you later.
All right.
Read your stuff.
Yep, got softball starting
all
this
right.
week.
All right, Franz. Thank you, buddy.
All
Good night, guys. All right, Franz Beard and Dan Bond from out in Dallas. Just enough time for me to tell you about my friends at Titan MRI Imaging and the product they put out there. And Joe Colorio, he was at the Derby. I haven't talked to Joe yet. I can't wait. I saw that picture of him actually on board of the horse that he was connected to. And we'll talk about that later on. But right now we'll talk about Titan MRI and Imaging. It was acquired Highfield MRI. Joe Colorio started Highfield in 1997. Now he's back. Titan MRI and Imaging now has 3 locations to serve you. 2 in Gainesville with Park Avenue location, and now at the Millennium Center, and 1 in Lake City, serving all of Columbia County and Valdosta, Georgia. Titan MRI and Imaging offers the same great customer service if they accept insurance, or you can go through their convenient self-pay options. They offer MRIs, CAT scans, X-rays, and ultrasounds, easily scheduled with lots of options, including evenings if you can't make it during the day. Larger MRI machines for patient comfort. Titan MRI and Imaging, check them out. Many locations to serve you, soon coming to Marion County. Thanks for their sponsorship. Better next time at the track, Joe. All right, thank you for our usual suspects tonight. Great to have Shane back and see Scott Carter back in the saddle, and of course, Franz and Dan. Thank you for listening, you for watching. And we'll be back tomorrow night. Not tomorrow night. Tomorrow night we'll have. We won't be hosting the show tomorrow night. And I'll be back on Wednesday night. And we got some great guests lined up for you. You won't want to miss some of the guests we got as we round up our music and say good night to you. And don't forget to listen to SEC Sidelines tomorrow with Brendan and the gang and Rob Brown. So stay tuned for many more good shows on this network. Thank you. Good night.